Today, culture moves quick. Hashtags trend. Causes take hold. Moments become movements overnight. We've all seen it. Miss the mark and blowback is swift. Brands apologize. Communities suffer. And the cycle repeats itself. NextLab by Gage is the first ever enterprise-level cultural navigator, an easy-to-use platform and bridge between brand leaders and the cultural leaders they typically hear from too late.
You just saw some of NextLab's latest advertisement. It's an enterprise-level cultural navigator by marketing research company Gage. They're one of many companies navigating the surge in the Delta variant and the Biden administration's new vaccine mandates. Joining us to discuss is Bloomberg's Renita Yun and Joshua Dubois. He's the CEO of Gage and has also led the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships under President Obama. Joshua, welcome to Quicktake. Briefly tell us about how NextLab works.
Listen, we are in uncharted waters right now. Brands are facing an unprecedented level of complexity. You know, the vaccine mandates, but it's also racial justice and politics. And every day it seems like there's something new. The problem is the tools of the past don't work for a context that's this complex. So we built NextLab as a software platform that is finally closing the gap between marketers who need to understand culture and the brilliant voices in culture, the people who are leading on these issues. So our subscribers log in and they have a chance to learn directly from top leaders in culture. They can test their products, their messages, their service ideas. They can even convene a virtual advisory council and hear directly from the leaders shaping culture every day.
Joshua, let's talk first about vaccinations. As you know, President Biden recently mandated private sector companies with 100 or more employees to require vaccinations or weekly testing. And I want to know first, what's your read on how corporations and brands are talking around this now?
Well, what we're hearing from folks on our platform is that we've got to focus on protecting people's health. It's not about corporate bottom lines or political debates, but about following the science and public health guidelines to make choices that keep employees and customers and their families, their kids, healthy, choices that save lives. You know, we're encouraging brands to talk about the trade-offs here. This is not a conversation about vaccine mandates versus freedom. It's about vaccines versus greater vulnerability to COVID. The choice to not be vaccinated is a choice, but it's a choice that puts you at greater risk of severe illness and hospitalization and death. And it's reasonable for companies to take that risk into account when setting their policies to make sure that as many people stay healthy as possible.
I want to get your opinion on how small businesses can navigate this. You know, the small business that's wondering the etiquette around vaccinations or even how to talk about it. How do you suggest they approach this?
Absolutely. What we're learning on NextLab is that even for a small business, it's less onerous to encourage and even for some mandate vaccinations than it is to deal with multiple tragedies of severe COVID, life-threatening COVID, even life-taking COVID on your team. This is not a situation that any business owner would choose. Both paths here are tough. But do you have a lot of folks on your team who are unvaccinated and then therefore more likely to be hospitalized, according to the CDC, 11 times more likely to die? Or do you go through the tough process of encouraging or mandating vaccinations? The choice for small business owners, again, is not between vaccine mandates and no mandates. It's between vaccination and a much higher likelihood of people on your team becoming severely ill or dying from COVID. Our research shows that that's how small business owners, and I'm one of them, have to be communicating.
You know what, something else you've said in an earlier interview is to look at what each brand or company has to offer uniquely to have some of these conversations, specifically about the racial reckoning America has had over the past year. And so I'm wondering where is the most pressing issue right now? Is it COVID or is it with this continuing equity conversation?
You know, it's the intersection of them, right? And we know, for example, that COVID is impacting diverse communities even more than other communities. And it's also the mental health implications of COVID. You know, as we hopefully begin to emerge from this pandemic, hopefully we're beginning to get the Delta variant under control. Now we have to deal with the aftermath. Now we have to speak to not just to people's physical needs and their economic needs, but to their mental health needs. And so we're hearing a lot of brands who want to understand how to speak to issues of mental health.
Joshua, I want to get some of your advice before we let you go, because we've all been through an extreme amount over the past 2 years and much before that, right? And you're such a spiritual leader. What advice do you have for how we can navigate this moment and kind of take care of ourselves?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing I would say is take a deep breath and realize that you are still here. You made it. You may have made it. You may have, struggled and faced a range of challenges over the last couple of years, but you are still standing. And that resilience means something, and it means something for your pathway ahead. The fact that you have navigated this last couple of years, given all that we've been through, means that you are strong and you are courageous, and you have a really powerful and important pathway in front of you. There's something still left for you to do. And so, yes, this has been a tough couple of years, but I'm also hopeful about the path ahead because we are a country of resilient people.
Joshua, what is your specific advice for small business owners too? Because I think that, as we've discussed, they're under a particularly challenging moment now with, labor shortages, also dealing with vaccine mandates and navigating how to keep their business afloat while keeping people safe. How can they take care of their mental health right now?
Yeah, I think it's so important to both pour in everything that you can in the times that you're in the office, and so many of us are virtual now, but also take time for yourself. We need our small business community to be whole, right? And so to really practice self-care, to make sure that you are finding moments to restore yourself, to take time away from the office as much as possible, and know that this is a long game, right? This is you are going to be in business for a long time, and yes, this period is tough, but there are going to be brighter and greater periods ahead for you. And so to really steel yourself and restore yourself for the long haul.
That's always a good reminder. Gage's CEO Joshua Dubois and Quicktake correspondent Renita Young, thank you so much for your time on the very important story of how we can take better care of ourselves.